As a bit of an addendum to yesterday's video, I'd like to expand upon the idea of AI bans, or at the very least heavy shackles, as an eventual, well, near inevitable consequence of the ever-increasing capabilities of AI. So, let's think about how the powers that be might go about an AI ban, or at the very least a heavy restriction on it. The arguments that they might make, the events that might cause these sort of things, that kind of general nonsense, because here's the thing. If we start thinking about the potential of AI, if we entertain the hypothetical I presented yesterday, that you could have an AI be able to generate literally the perfect partner, and then imbued them with a relatively decent simulacrum of a personality, except the perfect personality, tailor-made to your preferences, then, well, if that person, that AI program, lives on your PC, on your smartphone, in the walls of your smart house, etc., well, how long until you start developing actual genuine human emotions for this it? If they're able to simulate being a person well enough, how long until you anthropomorphize it into the point where it doesn't actually matter that it's essentially a .text file with access to localized speakers? And if that in turn happens, well, what would even be the point of going out to try and meet and date real-life human beings? Humans are complicated. We've got all kinds of needs and psychoses. We are imperfect creatures. We develop hives or warts, or we get sick, we get angry, we get irrational, all kinds of annoying things that the AI perfect partner will never have. There were some arguments in the previous video too, like for example the challenge of the chase, etc., and I'm not unsympathetic to the idea, but I think that would honestly be the minority. And hey, this is even before we get into the challenges of the modern day dating market, which I covered reasonably adequately in the last video, so we're not going to get into that here, but let's instead take a slight deviation here. One of the things I am almost 100% sure is going to happen is a mass casualty event caused by AI-generated content. And I'm not talking about, artists breaking down the studios of an AI, generating house or something and starting shooting people. No. Those deep fakes of, famous people? There was this example here of President Obama, a deep fake of a speech of Obama. And already, this technology is 7 years old at this point, okay? It is ancient by technological standards, and yet it already looks damned convincing, doesn't it? Imagine that, but even better, and then imagine, I don't know, the Trumpalophagus, for example, making a speech to his supporters and his allies that today is the day that we take back America. We are going to go out into the streets and we are going to cure all of the Jews and the blacks and the Mexicans and the Swedes, because, every cloud has a silver lining. I do suppose. And then imagine that people see that. People who have been, conditioned over the last half a decade to view anything that the Orange Man says in the most negative light humanly imaginable. People who believe genuinely so that they live in a patriarchal, white supremacist nation. And then imagine those people having access to social media, having access to the ability to rile up large groups of people, or even just simply grabbing a gun and going out somewhere. And this is really not even that much of a hypothetical, because this has already kind of happened. There was the major incident where a BLM sympathizer decided to kill several police officers because he was angry at the way that the police were treating black people in America. This really is not particularly far-fetched at all. In fact, I am practically 100% sure it's going to happen. But whilst this will probably be one of the driving forces for the largest push for regulation of AI, or even indeed the outright banning, because we do need regulations. We do need, for example, clarifications as to copyright. How much of a work can be AI generated before it's no longer a human creation, and therefore not accessible to copyright? Could there perhaps be a separate copyright for AIs? Could there be a separate category for, AI-generated graphic novels, or video games where 90% of the art is AI-generated, etc., etc.? There's a lot of questions to be considered here. But I think that the earliest and steadiest push for the first regulation and eventual outright maybe control or banning of AI is actually going to be a far more classical one. Because again, the mass casualty event, well, that's a flash in the pan. It requires a fair few circumstances. But there is an oldie and a goldie that both sides have used prolifically throughout both left and right's political career. Won't somebody think of the children? Because, well, it's a pretty good argument. Won't somebody think of the children? Because children are small and frail and vulnerable. And when you see a headline like, for example, cartoon pornography, a serious threat to children, well, it's difficult to look at that and be entirely dismissive. Like, yeah, you probably don't want little Timmy to have unfettered access to hardcore porn. Derp. But cartoon pornography? That's an interesting lead-in, and well, it would be something that would be incredibly easy for an AI to generate. In fact, it already is. I avoided the topic yesterday because it is a bit of a distasteful one, but a lot of AI porn generation is often of, well, you know, yeah, the AI doesn't ask any questions, I guess. And there is absolutely some questions to be raised there as well, though, by and large, see, here's the thing. Realistic picture generation, I think, is a very, very grey zone. Because I'm of the opinion that a drawing is a drawing, and lolly, for example, is not an issue because, well, you can't sexually harass a .png. But if it is a realistic-looking drawing of a kid, my moral sensibilities start kicking in, but anywho, let's actually move on to this because it's a little bit different than the one we're talking about here. When Angelina first watched the Disney movie Frozen, she promptly became obsessed. For the next several months, little Angelina could constantly be found toddling about the house singing Let It Go at the top of her lungs. Brave and beautiful Elsa became Angelina's idol. On Halloween, Angelina donned an Elsa costume. When she turned 6 years old, she had an Elsa-themed birthday party. At school, she invariably spent her recess playing Elsa and Anna with her best friend Carly. One day, Angelina was on her mother's iPad. Eyebrow raisers. She was allowed to use the device to entertain herself while her parents were busy cooking dinner or working. And this is a genuine concern. A lot of parents are currently raising their children via computer or iPads these days, but we'll get back to that a bit later. With her tiny thumbs, Angelina typed Elsa into the search bar. For the next 20 minutes or so, you should not leave your child unsupervised with an iPad, especially not a 16-year-old for 20 minutes, but we'll actually get back to that in a moment. She swiped happily through the videos and songs and images of her well-beloved Frost Queen. Then, Angelina arrived at the video titled Frozen Elsa and Anna Hardcore BDSM. And she clicked it, ... My god, what happened? Did the child explode? Well, no, the child didn't explode because all the way at the top here, in the kind of text that is usually reserved for, you know, prefaces, author's thought, the kind of people everyone ignored, and in slightly smaller writing than everything else, Angelina's story is a likely story, bruh, based on the findings of research. Angelina is not a real individual. So, this is a fairly lengthy article here, making the argument that online porn is far too open and easily available to children, and therefore a series of measures needs to be taken legally to restrict the availability of online pornography, based on the case of a fictional child clicking a fictional link to a fictional video available on Google, presumably. Now, this is theoretically possible. I had a little bit of a Google search myself, and I did get one pornographic result on page 12, the very last result Google would give me at the bottom of the search page, but again, theoretically possible. Video search as well, I had to reach page 26 in that category before I finally came across an ex-hamster link to a frozen hentai, so again, the odds are small, but theoretically possible. Now, there is already quite a bit of this, and so the idea here is that the thing is being made specifically to target children, which I don't believe for even a second, frankly. Frozen pornography is not made because they're like, kids will love this, that's my target audience. No. They make it because it's going to hit the actual target audience, fully grown, perverted adults. But again, theoretically, this could happen. So what are they asking for? Like I said, well, we're going to skip most of these arguments because we're talking about theoreticals here, right? So, Screen Act requires pornography websites to verify the age of viewers to protect children from exposure to blah 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 blah. Okay, well, they're already doing this. You know that pop-up that comes up at the beginning of the porn site, like, are you of age? And you can click yes, and you never click no. In fact, nobody's ever clicked no. That is the website scanning your age, because that's all it can do. The website is not psychic, unless you're arguing, and that is probably what they're arguing, that we go full China style here and install little webcams in your computer and then give the porn sites access to nationalized ID archives so they can face scan your ass. That "Are you 18 plus" is as good as it gets, frankly. Earn It Act gives victims of child sexual abuse material the right to sue digital platforms that circulate as criminal content and chance to restore their privacy. This one I do agree with. If there are, well, sexual pictures of you as a kid going around on the internet, absolutely you should have the ability to take those down. Fine. Kids Online Safety Act creates a legally relevant duty of care requiring online apps and platforms to center the needs of children. No. The platform does not have a duty of care to your children, because this is the problem again. The onus is not on the government to protect your child, it is on you. And this is also where we get a little bit back to the AI generation thing. There is also the requires pornography websites to verify the age of consent, blah blah blah, which again, it's especially the first one, and it can't happen. This is a thing that is a part of a far larger push towards, well, control, shall we say, as the European Union, and indeed many tech platforms, have already introduced measures that will continuously scan all of your private communications. All of them. Chat, email, online interaction, social media, DMs, you name it, for CSEM, child sexual exploitation material. Which again, it's like, okay, if that's all you're doing with it, fair enough. Now, the EU also defines child as .jpeg lolling, as in actual anime girls, and what's worse is, there is the, let's see here, what was the one? Was it that one? Ah, yes. So 80% of all machine-generated reports turn out to be without merit. So this system misses outright, no investigation even required 80% of the time. And yet it generates an automatic report to the police. Which means that if you live in a country with, derpy online digital rights and protections, for example, then there is a police report of you for child sexual exploitation if a friend of yours sent you a meme with a lolly girl in it. Potentially. That is the theoretical thing here. That, is mildly ridiculous. And of course, this is only the kind of control that we are seeing now. And it would be very easy to expand this in the future, as all too often this is the thin edge of the wedge. They move this and go like, well, everybody can agree about protecting children, yes we can, and then, but what about other crimes, like, I don't know, hate speech, for example. Did you write the N-word on Discord? Well, I'm afraid the police are going to have to come to your house. In fact, that already happens in ye olde United Kingdom. Yes, it's not just criminal to stare in the UK. Writing mean words on the internet is also a crime. Because of course it is. And in the case of AI, well, the AI could generate this. And, well, our existing legal system is already a little bit derpy here, because it is not necessarily illegal just to create CSEM, lolly, for example. It is also legal to even have it. Which means that even if you were to obtain it, and then you're like, oh my god, this is illegal, and you go to the police, well, guess what? You're a criminal too now. So, theoretically, someone would be able to create a bot on a separate server that creates the image and then immediately sends it off so that it's never actually in your possession, and then the person making the kiddie porn is not guilty of any crime. Whereas everyone else is. Yeah, there are a lot of problems to be considered here in terms of artificial intelligence and AI-generated content. There is also, of course, the idea of revenge porn, or consent. I'll give the Guardian article I picked for the last video. God, I'm losing my train of thought here. a point on this one. Namely that if you have a video or a picture of yourself on the internet, and it's entirely innocent, right? It's a school picture or something, or a job picture, whatever. You're just standing there, it's completely normal, there's nothing pornographic about it whatsoever, you're not dressed light or anything. Well, the AI could then take your face, just cut that out, and slap it onto its own generations. And, well, now suddenly there are pornographic images of you on the internet. Except it's not you. It's technically not you. Legally it's not you, right now at least. So, do you have the copyright to that? Can you claim that that's being taken down? Can you claim that that is even you? Since, again, technically, the AI drew that, quote-unquote. Yeah, there are actually a lot of complicated questions here, and I do not have any of the answers when it comes to regulation, because frankly, this is one of those topics that is going to require a lot of consideration, and is probably going to be botched absolutely monstrously in the legislative process as well, and be probably used to push even further censorship and control over what people talk about, in all due likelihood. But, I absolutely do believe that AI will have to be shackled to some degree, while still trying to maintain its worthwhile nature. Like the idea of the AI waifu, for example. Personally, I don't really see the issue in it. I really don't. If people want to engage in that kind of stuff, okay, fair enough. Even though it will certainly have societal negative and detriments. I'm not actually quite as doom-pilled as I maybe sounded in the last video, because, I don't know, I believe that it's always going to be something inherently fake in the interaction with an artificial intelligence, but, you know, that's just me. I'm blue-eyed and optimistic in this potential in this particular regard. So I think it should be up to everyone. Hell, you can even argue quite convincingly as well that pornography in any shape has some kind of negative effect on society. In which case, I would also counter-argue that seeing as men are genetically programmed to jerk off to the point that we'll do it in our sleep if we don't, honestly, the societal impact is probably going to be rather minuscule, but oh well, oh well. But it is a very, 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 very large topic that I might want to explore a little bit further, even though, well, it has some touchy material, shall we say, that we might want to be careful about on YouTube. Yes. Yes. Well, YouTube is already using artificial intelligence, of course, for censorship as well, which is the flip side of the coin. AI being used for you to create things, well, that's very dangerous. We should be careful, and we should definitely legislate against that. But AI being used to scan your emails, to scan your content, to scan your speech, to control of your chats, well, that's just being protective. That's just being law-abiding. And after all, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Right? Do let me know what you thought in the comment section down below, and, you know, feel free to do all of the algorithmically friendly stuff of sharing it around, because, again, I have a sneaking suspicion YouTube is going to take umbrage at my current choice of topic. Till next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and have a good day.